Welcome to episode 332 of Pub Theology Live, a weekly conversation on life and faith over a craft brewed pint, a fine wine, or whatever happens to be in your glass. On today's episode, the Reverends Shannon Weston, Ogan Holder, and yours truly, Brian Burkoff. I guess I could throw that in there. Address and engage what's
It'd be good to
happening.
know you.
Do you know your name, Brian? Do you actually know it?
We will address and engage what's happening through a theological lens with a good brew in hand. Maybe someone had a brew before the show. I don't know.
You just think everybody knows who you are all the time. It's okay.
Not true.
I do that too.
Now everybody's gonna
Whether you're
write
a
in
long
and be
time,
like, "We know who you are. It's fine."
whether you're a long time listener or new to the show, you can get even more content, recordings of our pre and post show discussions. Become a subscriber at patreon.com/PT Live, just a few bucks a month. You will also get a pint glass. We got Pub Theology Live pint glasses. We got a few left. So if you want one of those, sign up, get the extra content, and we are forever grateful for you doing it. The new folk, the old folk, the long running folk. Patreon.com/PT Live.
Today we're going to discuss MLK, civil rights, and protesting the church. For our international listeners, MLK is Martin Luther King Jr. and civil rights in the United States. Maybe you know that, maybe you don't. I don't know. So, fellas, what are we drinking today?
Way to make space for our Hong Kong listeners. I like that.
I mean, it has been on the top of the list.
No.
You know what's interesting, and I'm sure this is more than a Freudian slip in our topics. It's protesting at church, but you said protesting the church,
Oh,
which
well,
I mean,
Well, it was
you're
that
not
too.
far off.
It was that
protesting
too.
with, for,
At
Or
because
at,
of,
the
at.
in around
Yes,
every
exactly.
preposition.
All the prepositions.
Under.
all the places,
Under the church.
all the
All right, what are you drinking,
all
Ogan?
the places. I'm drinking. Speaking of already opened old wine, not as old as Shannon's from last week. This is a red, a Bordeaux that we bought back from France over the holidays. It's been open for about 2 days. I think today's the third day, and yeah, the legs got a little bit longer on it, but it's still drinkable. So that's what it is. A lovely red.
And the lovely red rose on the third day. And we
Yeah.
finished. The bottle was empty. Brian, what are you drinking?
I might have been wrong
That
about
was
it's
good.
okay to drink.
Oh, he doesn't like it.
I'm
Uh-oh.
gonna have to get some notes. Ooh, wow. That's
So
right.
we're recording a little earlier today, so I got a mug of fresh brewed coffee, but I splashed it up a little with a little cream and a little bottom shelf rum.
Mm, bottom shelf rum. Low on the shelf rum.
What do you got, Shannon?
So I don't have anything else to do today besides like all this administrative work that I don't like to do. So I'm going to have an espresso martini, which I already made up. Just have my shaker. So during Christmas break, like we drank a espresso martini like every day, and I can't give it up. I love it, but
There you go.
I mean, I can give it up. I have given it up, but when I have the opportunity, now I want it again. So,
Fun fact, I have never had an espresso martini.
oh, Brian,
And I like espresso and martinis.
it's so good. It's so good.
I'm not a coffee drinker or a vodka drinker, so not my two favorite
Not your
things to
thing.
drink. But I have tried them, and I will say it does make the martini better. I mean, marginally for me, but yeah.
Well,
If someone had to force me to drink a martini, it would be that. Or chocolate martini if I had a chocolate martini.
I have
Like
had a chocolate
I
martini.
like those too. Yes.
Yeah, a little sweet. I mean, I would love to let's combine the coffee, espresso martini and the chocolate martini together. I'd be into that.
That's what I'm saying.
A mocha martini.
A
Let's do
mocha
that.
Mocha
martini.
martini.
Trademark.
Trademark. Claimed it.
So before we get too far, I want to give a shout out to listener Lisa, who says, I'm checking in from Antarctica. It is the place to get away from the crazy. What is she doing there? She says she's on a cruise, and there are a few fellow U.S. folk on the cruise. But she says, seriously, most of the world wants their governments to stand up to our idiocracy, meaning other countries want to stand up to US idiocracy. And then Lisa says, keep up the show and Shannon, get some fresh wine. Referring to last week.
Yes, yes. I will. I promise I will. And if you're listening to this one, send us your address and I'm going to send you a pint glass.
There you go.
Because I get to be the decider.
There you go for tuning in on a boat from the South Pole.
Yes. You get a
Love
pint
it.
glass.
And letting us know about it. Bonus
Yeah.
points for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Love it. Love it. Okay. It was Martin Luther King Jr. Day, a federal holiday in the United States yesterday. And for our opener, Martin Luther King Jr. was an avid pool or billiards player. If you were given the choice of only one, would you prefer to play pool or billiards, table tennis slash ping pong, darts, or foosball? Like if you're out at the bar with friends, let's say, and all four of these are available, which one would you gravitate toward?
Table tennis, also known
Uh,
as ping pong.
There you go.
that was my choice too.
Was
That
it?
was my choice.
Really? I didn't expect that
Yeah.
from either
In
of you.
order, in oh man, I'm killer ping pong player.
Let's go.
In order, table tennis or ping pong, uh, foosball, then pool, then darts. Because with darts, I'm gonna put somebody's eye out. Like my aim is ridiculous. Aim, which also applies to the whole pool situation. Not like in my head, like I can see the angles, but then my hands won't cooperate, and the ball never goes where I want it to. So which is
Yeah.
not good. But foosball, got foosball down, but
What
ping
would
pong,
your order
man,
be,
that's my
Shannon?
jam.
Well, I honestly would I'm a little more 50-50 on pool and ping pong than I care to admit.
Yeah.
Although I like table tennis ping pong better. Saying ping pong sounds really dumb, like I'm talking about the character from Inside Out. But anyway, um
We know what you mean.
I know. But anyway, that's what I've always called it.
Me too.
Um but I do like to play pool. I'm not especially amazing at it, but I'm good enough that I enjoy playing it. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
Um, we have a dartboard in our house, like we have a real one that you could hurt somebody with, and our kids have weirdly not hurt each other with it.
Wow.
But I don't know how to play. I don't understand the rules. I don't understand the point system.
Yeah.
So it's just there to throw stuff at, which is fun in and of itself. I have never been able to figure out the foosball table. Like, I don't know if it's my hand-eye coordination. I don't know what it is. So it is very bottom of my list. I like to walk by it and make the guys spin. That's it.
Yeah. So growing up, we had a ping pong table, a foosball table, and a dartboard. So I like all three of those, but I agree with you two. I would put ping pong or table tennis first, probably darts second,
Mm.
and then I'm a toss up between foosball or pool. What I like about pool is it's more casual. Like you got your drink on the
Hmm.
edge or the table right next door. You kind of surveying the scene. You can have conversation. Like the other, and darts is that way too. But foosball and table tennis are very action intensive,
Yeah.
and you're sort of in it when you're in it, right? So it's a beverage before or after, but you're not. It's
Hmm.
less casual. It's more intense. But they're all fun.
We we have an air hockey table in our basement.
Oh,
And so
I
that
forgot to
but
add that
same
one.
thing. Like you've got to wait until the disc goes in to like
Hmm.
take a drink or whatever. And it's very intense while you're doing it. Which we're like we have a tendency to like that in our house. Like we're very competitive people.
Love it. Love it.
What I would love that we're not talking about, but what I would love to have, and someday when I win the lottery, which would have to play first, but nonetheless, I would get a real skee ball machine
Oh yeah.
in my house. Like skee ball, like if skee ball is on this list, none of the other ones exist in my world. Like, love me some skee ball.
Christy would be right there with you. She loves skee ball also.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
kind of like,
Doesn't that take up too much space in your house?
it's a
I'm
yes.
sorry. Have you seen how big that air hockey table is? Like,
There you
Fair
go.
point. Fair point.
There you go. There you go.
although
So,
it does, sorry, it does
no, you're
double
good.
as my laundry dump where I dump all the laundry when it needs to be done or go in. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. The community center my church was meeting in before our current space had a air hockey table that was right behind, like it was right behind me when I'm preaching. You know, so we should have had people up there playing. That would have added a little
I was gonna say you should have had him play while you were
big scoreboard.
with one of those cameras that like look down on the thing, so on your screens is like what's happening on the air hockey table.
Precisely.
I love it.
They'd be like, get this guy out of the way. He's blocking the view.
Why is he talking?
Okay, so what is the civil rights issue of our day, or is there an like what rises up? If you said this is the civil rights issue, or maybe give me top two. You're muted, Ogan.
Sorry. I was going to say, what isn't the civil rights issue of the day? Feels like, how do you pick?
Hmm.
Everything is being attacked in this day and age.
I think being Greenland is currently a civil rights issue.
Like I said, where does one start?
I mean, so Derek, my husband said the other day. So first, I'll say, like, if you're asking literally today, like this day, what comes to the top of the pile is the immigration issue in the United States, right? Like the ICE raids. Today, like it's Minneapolis, St. Paul is the flavor of the city of the week. Um, but it was Chicago before that. It was, Charlotte, North Carolina before that. It
Portland.
was Portland before that. Like um, but Derek said the other day, because we were having this interesting discussion about like this weird pressure that we're both feeling, or that I'm particularly feeling, I guess, of like feeling very much that judgmental, how is history going to judge me during this time?
Right,
That
right,
and that I'm like just struggling. I'm like, I don't know that that's helpful, but I'm struggling with it. Um,
right.
and he actually said, he was like, this isn't the civil rights movement. And in the moment, I didn't have enough to say more about that, but I would be curious it's not that I disagree, it's just I'm not quite sure.
Hmm.
So now that I look at this, I'm more like the it feels more like American democracy is being attacked. It feels more like the governmental, like the actual civil rights issue is that our rights and liberties as Americans are being stripped away slowly. And I don't mean that. And again, I'm not even just talking about citizens. I'm just talking about the principles of the governance of the United States. And so if I had to pick one, I think I would focus on that because everything else seems to be stemming from that.
Right. And there's many symptoms of which maybe that's part of the source. But like
Hmm.
Ogan said, that goes many directions and impacts many people.
Yeah, but it's
and
it's
and
a
they're
hard
and
question to
they're
answer.
determined to flood the zone by going in all the places,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
it's and to Shannon's point, the guardrails of democracy that we've had in place for so long are being tested, being strained. Some are holding up, some are buckling. Like, we to the I guess the founding fathers, when people say they never had Trump in mind, yes, they did, but
Right.
I think we'd also evolved to a point where it was a given that someone like Trump wouldn't be in that position because we had all these guardrails, because we wrote this constitution to not be the dictatorship to all the things. So people, I guess everyone assumed, well, hey, if you want to be here and you want to be president, you play by the rules that have always been there. You be the face of not being a dictatorship, because that's what the US is about. And we got someone who's like,
We've
let's see about that.
we've believed there's only, or at least I did, like I've believed there's only so much damage a president could do. And quite frankly, in my lifetime, that damage has been this is a very selfish and very privileged thing to say, but that damage has been on other parts of the world. That damage has, at least not in my lifetime, actually physically fully, and I would say fully, been turned on the people of the United States. It has
Well,
been in
not.
part.
I was going to say not all people in the United States would agree with you
No, no,
because
no,
you
but
know
I
we
would say in part, in and again, what I mean by that is like obviously the United States has always targeted certain groups of people, like, and there's all kinds of, I mean, the list is very, very long over a long period of history. But
yeah.
and again, I think this is why when we look back at the civil rights movement was kind of the last time um an active right of our, I think that is the last time our actively our people were here to, it was such
It,
widespread.
it was the last time that the law of the land
Yes, thank you.
supported the discrimination,
Right.
right? We changed
Yep.
laws, but the discrimination never really went away.
That's right.
But also they've been, I guess one could argue they've been gains. They've been gains in civil everybody's civil rights. It's not been always fun. It's not been always easy. Sometimes those gains didn't happen until white suburbanites were affected, looking at the AIDS crisis, looking at the opioid crisis, all those things. But at least we were kind of moving forward, I guess. When you look at legalizing same-sex marriage, when you looked at other things like a lot of really good healthcare safety nets in some states, like it looks like all right, we kind of be in a mess at this, and yes, there's a lot of issues, but at
Yeah.
least it didn't feel like we were moving backwards. And I think that's the thing now. It feels like we're becoming, and it's hard to say this without making it sound like I'm looking at other countries and other places and saying we're better than them. But it feels like, to your point, Shannon, we're becoming one of those countries that we said
Hmm.
we had to go in and help,
Yes.
right?
Right. Right.
Yes.
That's
When
that's
And
right.
schools are shut down for a week because it's not safe for the kids because of the federal government.
Exactly. Yes.
yeah, yeah,
That's exactly
right.
right.
And
And
and to be
yeah.
clear, we were never going in to help anyone. It was always some like nefarious
Right.
ulterior motive in
Yeah.
foreign policy, but at least to your point, it was like, but at least we are okay over here. Now you're right. We don't we haven't we haven't known how to deal with it not being over here, not being okay over here since the civil rights era, which
Well,
is again not a whole lot of us
yeah.
are old enough to consciously remember the horror of that time. We
And I
completely
will
forget.
say, right, like, I mean, this is brought up every year of like on MLK Day because so much of the photography from that time was in black and white. We have this idea that it was such a long time ago, that actually one of the important things that I've seen people do on MLK Day is like share pictures in color to like rewire the brain to think, oh wait, that was 1968. That wasn't, as long ago as we think it was. But I think to like what scared me in terms of this the most and why I talk about it in terms of the fight on democracy or the wrestling, sorry, my words, I'm really tired. um, but anyway, y'all get what I'm trying to say is that like I think about the images of, for instance, Ruby Bridges, and I can't think of their names right now, but the four that got into college and the lines of police protecting them from the mobs of people yelling and screaming while they were being walked into
During
school
desegregation.
during desegregation, and that those were court rulings
Right.
that had to be upheld. And I think one of the things, I forget his name because again, my memory isn't that great at this moment, but when ICE kind of when they first that um Supreme Court ruling kind of gave ICE carte blanche to just do whatever they wanted, and they arrested that man. I think they sent him back to Venezuela, who was completely legal and shouldn't have been, and the court said turn that plane around, and they said nope,
Abrego Garcia.
thank you. And and that's where it went, okay, so as much as they didn't like it, once the court ruled, like law enforcement kind of fell in line. And now we're just ignoring all of it, ignoring it, completely gone out the window. And that's what's scary to me in many, many ways.
Yes. Yeah. And I think you're right. And it does get back to what you said. The overarching thing is that the institutions themselves are crumbling and they're not holding up the norms that they were meant to hold up. And the whole system is being stressed intentionally, right? Not
Right,
accidentally,
right.
intentionally. It's to override those norms so that we can have an authoritarian government that just does what it wants. See the whole Greenland issue, like we have someone in charge who doesn't like being told no and like can't let it go. Like literally our allies are
It's
arming themselves against our country. Like what are we doing?
Yeah.
it's the I don't know if you guys saw any of the videos from the protests in Europe against the whole Greenland thing. It's hilarious the anti-US sentiment,
Oh,
Hmm.
um, and
I mean, we didn't have a great
the
reputation to
new
begin with.
there's that, and then the new MAGA slogan, "Make America Go Away." Did you see?
I saw that.
I did not
There's
see that.
there's red hats, MAGA, "Make America Go Away."
I love it.
It's great.
I mean, you're
It is
probably
great.
wearing like your Stars and Stripes bandana or t-shirt all the time.
I mean, all the time. He's
So there's the other funny
he's
thing
changing his
being over
accent
here.
to be a true American accent and not
Listen, listen. When I'm over here now and people are like, "Where are you from?" My first answer is originally Barbados.
Barbados. Correct answer.
that's
I
that's
am from
that's
Barbados.
originally Barbados. You don't sound Barbados. I lived in the States for a little bit,
Yeah, yeah, just a
right?
little bit though.
The whole of my adult life, but let me start to distance myself, as they say.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so MLK Jr. went to jail 29 times, nearly all for civil disobedience. How many clergy members or friends do you know who have gone to jail today for doing the right thing? And if you were to be imprisoned for protesting an issue, what issue would it be? And I think this gets to Shannon's sort of feeling earlier. Like when we look back on this moment of history, will we all feel like, did I do enough? Was there more I could have done? What is the right thing to do right now? And it is hard to know.
Mhm. I have countless clergy friends who have been arrested. I mean, the pretty poignant, if you just Google the protests, the ICE protests in Chicago, the clergy people that were arrested in Chicago, like most of those are Presbyterian ministers that
Right.
I know. Um, Less so, I mean, they're being arrested in Minneapolis, but less so like splashed all over the news kind of
Yeah.
thing. Um, but yeah, I know, I mean, I know countless people. In fact, I know many people who have churches have set up funds for like clergy um to pay bail and
Right.
lawyers and things like that. So, yeah.
Yeah. I did
I was
rather
going to
res
say, I
oh,
no,
go
go
ahead.
ahead, Brian. I was
Okay.
going to say, I know a few as well. When you say jail, like I'm thinking, like, are we talking significant jail time? Or are we talking like booking overnight? Like jail means different things. There's jail, and then there's prison. But yes, I know a few who've been arrested, but they didn't serve like jail time. It's like either they
Right.
made
The idea
bail
is
or
maybe
they're
it's an
released with a
overnight
warning. Yeah,
or you were handcuffed
yeah.
and put in the back of the
You're
car.
handcuffed, yes, that sort of deal, and yes, for civil disobedience as well. I mean, I know of a couple who did some other shady things,
Yeah, that's different. I know
not
those
civil
too, but you know.
disobedience.
Yeah, I know all kinds of clergy embezzling.
Just
They got
saying,
caught behind the stadium buying something they shouldn't
They
buy,
were hanging out with the organist.
be
getting thrown
being
in
with
the
someone
paddy
they shouldn't have
wagon.
been with. Yeah. Clergy get arrested for a lot of
I
things.
mean, listen,
Anyway,
I don't know
sorry.
that it's more percentage than the regular population, but just because we're clergy, we get,
Absolutely.
We are people. We are people too. We are
right.
people too.
Anyway,
So
but
so I
no,
was
for
gonna
civil disobedience specifically, I haven't seen this. I will say I don't think I've seen this many clergy arrested since the Occupy Wall Street days.
right.
Um,
Mm.
And those days were because I was in the capital of New York at the time, and there was actually like it was planned to cross because with Occupy, like, it was like, well, you can have this space, but you can't go over here. And
Right.
so there were like planned days where you would cross that barrier um to again for specific reasons to protest and an active civil disobedience. I don't I think they're being arrested right now for civil disobedience when that's not, I mean, that really was, right? They were actively being, anyway. But this now it's just, I don't like you. I don't want you here.
Yeah.
I do really appreciate the videos coming out of Minneapolis where the police are protecting the protesters from ICE actively because they have every right to be there. They have every right to protest. They have all the right permits.
Correct.
And so I think that's why we're not seeing as many like horrible photos of people getting arrested. It's because the police are actually actively supporting the
Because
protesters.
Minnesotans know what's what.
They know what's what. And Baltimore did this too, admittedly. Like after Freddie Gray, Minneapolis has had this happen with George Floyd. Like,
Right.
and at least with Freddie Gray in Baltimore, I mean, the National Guard had to be called in 2015 when that happened, and tons of training at the Baltimore City Police Force around protesting rights and how to. And so when during COVID, when George Floyd protests were happening, there were zero incidences in Baltimore, zero
Mm.
between police and protesters because they had been trained on it. And I think Minneapolis probably did the same thing.
I love that. I love that. I was going to say I joined a rapid response training last week, and this was a Zoom one via some organizers from Chicago, and they're saying, wherever you are in the country, here's some, best practices, et cetera. And, the idea is that you join a local collective for the neighborhood you live in or at least are adjacent to. And we live rurally, and they're like, when you get the response, notification to be an observer or whatever to show up, you got to be there in 5 to 7 minutes, or often it's too late.
Right.
And it's like, I'm like 8 minutes out from the closest sort of neighborhood I could get to, but I still want to know those best practices. And there may well be, I mean, there's a grocery store not far from here where there was a nice arrest over the weekend.
Hmm.
And like across this country, we're going to continue to see this while this administration is in office. And so I think, I think it was an Episcopal bishop out of New Hampshire who said clergy need to think about having their affairs in order and putting their
Mhm.
bodies in between
I was
themselves and the
I was just
law.
about to read the whole quote. Got it here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead and read it.
He says, told clergy, get your affairs in order, make sure wills are written, prepare for a new era of martyrdom. It may be that now is no longer the time for statements, but for us with our bodies to stand between the powers of this world and the most vulnerable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
I mean, he's calling it stand in the breach. We got to stand in the breach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we can.
Yep.
Yeah, I know that bishop, and I don't think he's wrong, and I and I don't and I
being
don't think
figurative.
he's a person who's just saying that, to be honest.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. Exactly.
I
And
also
but
learned, oh, go
sorry.
ahead, okay.
No, you go.
Well, I learned because I was very upset. Like, news came out that Baltimore County in Maryland would cooperate with ICE, and I was very angry. And then, so I went to a, informational thing, and I learned actually. And so, like, I'm just saying this for education purposes because ask questions like, are they cooperating? Or um, what the police force said, which I found really interesting, was we had a choice to make, which is if we quote the language is cooperated, it meant that they had to tell us where they were going to be.
Ah,
And if we didn't cooperate with them, then they just could
then you're
go
out of the
wherever,
loop.
then you're out of the loop. So we chose to cooperate so we could be where they were and actually create a little more insight or a little more like
Yeah.
protection.
So once you learned that, you were glad they did that.
Yeah. So then I was like, okay, let's see how this goes. Like I want action to meet language here.
Mhm.
But I mean, so I found that language, I found that cooperating language to be like a little educational there of what does
Yeah.
that actually
But
mean? So ask
it's
questions, ask
and sorry,
questions.
yeah. But also we find ourselves at a time where our president is a petulant man child, and everyone has to use language that makes it seem that we are not
Yes.
fighting him.
Yes.
And because even if our language is polite but it's come across as we're opposing you, then you're being thrown under the bus.
But what's crazy though, what I find, I mean, yes, and right, like Wes Moore, our governor here in Maryland, has stood up to Trump multiple times. And
Sure.
when they actually, and I think this was shown best when the new mayor of New York met with Trump, when when they actually get in a room together, like he defers to real power. He defers to real strength. And and it's such a weird thing to watch because by the align, I mean, we all know this is psychology 101. By aligning himself with that person, he then seems stronger, that kind of deal. But it's
Sure.
crazy. It's crazy to me. Um, but it's also not surprising that a lot of the states he's going after have female governors either. So, there's that too.
Right. Right. Yes. So, Martin Luther King Jr. also said this in terms of thinking about when do we act or not. He said, if any earthly institution or custom conflicts with God's will, it is your Christian duty to oppose it. You must never allow the transitory, evanescent demands of man-made institutions to take precedence over the eternal demands of the Almighty God. So do you agree with that? And how do you determine if someone or something conflicts with God's will or not? Right? Is this law in opposition actually to what God would want or what is truly just?
Well, I was going to say, what does God want? What is God's will? Depends on who you ask, right? So, I mean, this thing is this is one of these statements that you can make it fit whatever side of the issue that you're on, right? Because there are enough people who will say, God's will is for there to be a man and a woman and procreate, make babies, and that's God's will. So therefore, all the laws are being written to invisibilize and not support trans people make sense because
Yeah.
God made Adam and Eve.
No,
End of
that,
story,
that
right?
that's
So,
fair. That's fair. I have a quote from him from a letter from a Birmingham jail that maybe is a little clearer. And he says, as he's writing to these white clergy, you express a great deal of anxiety over our willingness to break laws. And how can you advocate breaking some laws and obeying others? And he says, the answer lies in the fact that there are two types of laws, just and unjust, and that we have a
mhm.
responsibility to obey just laws and the same moral responsibility to disobey the unjust. And I like that. It's a little cleaner. It sort of pulls out the is this from God or not from God, which, as you noted well, Ogan, there's some pretty bad stuff that gets put out there under this is what God wants.
Well, I
And
mean,
I
if you read some parts of the Bible, just saying, God has wanted a lot of different things over the time. Okay,
right. I
just
mean, the
saying.
only the only reason why I'm okay with this quote, I think this is actually a really dangerous quote, to be honest. Um, the only reasons why I'm okay with it is because I understand it in context to MLK's whole canon, or not whole entire, but to the thesis and the canon of which he was standing from, of which he was functioning. If you read this on its own, it could get very dangerous, like Ogun said. What is God's will? How do you like you could customize it? What I understand him to be saying is in context to what he was to his other writings, his other teachings, his other speeches, etc. Um, that doesn't make it any, that doesn't make this quote wrong. It's just dangerous on its own, right?
Right. And yeah, to his time and context, laws that were disadvantaging people of color or explicitly racist, whites here or whites only. Yeah, that's man-made. That is against what God wants. That should be against what everyone wants if we're a
Right.
good-hearted human.
Well, and to me, if so, again, what is God's will? But if you just it doesn't take a theological degree to say, okay, what MLK was kind of standing from was we are all God's children. We are all created in God's image. That is the premise of God's will, that we are all created in from this place. We are all equal in God's eyes. Then it's not such a hard quote to read. If you and that is not a big leap to make. That is knowing a sliver about him. So as long as you can keep it in that context, I mean, I also like the eternal, I mean, I again, this is where 50 years later the language is different even for us, right? Of like eternal demands must take precedence. Like that's not something we would say necessarily
Could we
today.
imagine that coming out of the leader of the free world language like that?
Like
He wouldn't be able to pronounce evanescence, so
well, he would just based on Chumbawamba stuff, right? Like
there you go. There you go. With
transitory
made up.
might trip him up.
The eternal demands of current day is someone deserves a Nobel Peace Prize. That just feels like the
Oh my
eternal
God.
demand.
Did you see that quote? I'm so sorry. Did you see that quote that was like, "Well, now that you didn't give me that award, I have no reason to promote peace." I was like, "What?"
He wrote that to Norway.
I
Norway is
know.
not Denmark.
I
Denmark is
know.
the ones who own. Like, what are you doing,
I
dude?
know. He
What's
was like,
what's been really funny, I'm sure you guys have seen them, all the memes of other people giving him awards from like
"Yes. Yes."
that. Listen,
And
that made
and
my
there's like
weekend, honestly.
there's like a mail drop, like packages drop, like
Hmm.
there's one that, I mean, it's obviously made like outside the White House of like drop off your awards for Trump here,
Yes.
like
I love it. The one with
Yes.
Daniel LaRusso. Congratulations, President Trump, the 1984 All Valley Karate Champion.
exactly. Oh
Okay, so
God.
something that was a little.
We have to laugh, people. I'm so sorry. This is real. It has real consequences. We know that, but like we just have to laugh
We
about it.
do have to laugh. We have to stay sane. So something controversial that happened in Minneapolis over the weekend, or St. Paul, Twin Cities. Protesters stormed into a church to demand that federal immigration forces, or ICE, leave, and again calling for justice for Renee Nicole Good. And part of the reason they targeted this church is because the pastor of that church also serves as an ICE agent or a coordinator for ICE agents working for Immigration Customs Enforcement. So, A, how do you feel about protesters interrupting a worship service? Like the right is just having a field day with this. Like, see, liberals interrupting Christian worship. Is there any time or reason that might be okay? And then how do you feel about a pastor working for ICE? Not against ICE, for ICE.
I
Well, I
just wish
mean,
they would have asked clergy to lead the charge, like to be honest.
seriously,
Mhm.
Yeah.
seriously.
Like, because a lot of people would have signed on for that.
Also, if you are putting yourself in a position to work for and with an organization that just randomly shows up at people's workplace to harass them, then you have no qualms. You have no qualms to complain when it happens to you as well.
Snap.
Exactly.
Just saying.
Boom.
Yeah.
Boom.
And
Just saying.
and
But what if this was a sanctuary church, sanctuary for ICE agents?
God, Brian.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I know you have to think this way. I know you do. I know it's just in you.
I can't help it.
It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault.
Well, a little.
Um, I
But
mean,
but
we've said ICE agents are people too, but like,
no,
no.
right.
But
But like
why do you
they are
Are they?
disrupting they're disrupting worship. Like people are losing their
so?
minds over this
People disrupt worship all the time.
as if it's an unbridgeable, uncrossable line.
Oh my god.
I mean,
So what's interesting is, of course, I'm pretty sure some of those people probably sitting in those pews are probably some of those people behind the masks as well. I
Uh,
mean, I went to this church's website and they're fairly straightforward evangelical,
yeah.
yeah.
right? So
Sure.
it's it's not the kind of Christianity that says, or their interpretation of we are all made in the image and likeness of God is, that means you're either male or female because that's what God created and nothing in between and yada yada yada, all the things. So their idea, back to that question of God's will, their idea of God's will is very, very much in line with, dude being an ICE agent sort of deal. They, it it reminds me a little bit of on my in my newsletter, I had written this article titled "Spiritual Liberation or Liberation from Spirituality," and the whole premise was of the article was, sometimes our spiritual religious faith beliefs will imprison us, will keep us restricted, limited, doing the bad things, sort of deal. And sometimes we, deconstruction is in order. Anyways, someone, a longtime friend of mine, responded that churches should not be the torchbearers for justice. We should just be concerned with, providing the space and for people's spiritual growth. We shouldn't be the ones doing that. And my reply to that was, oh my God, I wish I could. I wish that was all we did, right? But I can make the spiritual / religious case for being the voice and the face of justice, namely Jesus. But that if that's too straightforward, I said we live in a time where church and a lot of modern doctrine is responsible for the harm, is perpetuating the harm, causing harm within the church as well. So if the church are the people who are doing the harm, then we can't say they get off scot-free. No, they got to be also the recipients of those who are trying to dismantle the harm as well. So this is a great example of that. All the churches that out there that seek to say you are othered, you are less than ideal human, you are less than divine because we don't agree, because you don't agree with our interpretation of doctrine and scripture. If you didn't agree but you're just as valid a human and just entitled to all the rights as I am, great, we don't have to have theological agreement. But when you dehumanize based on a theological disagreement, then you're a church doing harm, and I don't believe you deserve that space. And your teachings are in no doubt indoctrinating other people to do more harm. And you can't probably get that more than this. I would be fascinated in all my free time when I'm still recovering from this stupid cold that I've had from a week or whatever it is I have, to listen to some of his sermons and see where that indoctrination happens. Because if he's out there working for ICE and being an ICE agent or liaison or whatever nonsense he's doing, that means somewhere his theological beliefs has to align with that concept of dehumanization. Because you can't not believe that and go do what you're doing.
That or he's
I can't
just struggling on a pastor salary and saw the $50,000 signing bonus for
I
ICE. Like,
mean,
sign
listen. I ain't gonna fight you on that one, man.
right?
Clergy
Well-
salaries, right?
Right.
So, I mean, here's the problem, right? Like, if I'm going to believe in the principles of democracy, if I'm going to believe in like capitalistic democracy, which is what we live under, but still democracy, if I'm going to believe that I have the right in worship to speak from the pulpit, whatever it is that I believe the
Yeah.
word of God is saying, he also has that right. So
True.
I'm sorry. I have to, like, I'm gonna American president quote this, quote this badly, but like, I can't just believe that I have the right to this symbol of freedom of speech and separation of church and state. I also have to believe that the person that speaks exactly the opposite of me has that right as well. Um, but where worship is a public space. It is. It is not closed down. It is not a private space. It is not separate. Like, it is a public space. And to your point, right? Like they're disrupting his workplace just as much as, if not more, right? Or like ICE agents are disrupting workplaces more. They didn't go in there, disrupt it, and hurt him and arrest him
Right.
in his underwear and freezing,
And
take him
separate him
out
from
and
his family.
exactly all of that. Like they just went in and protested in a public space. So that has to be okay. That has to be okay under our laws and under our understanding.
I mean, maybe
Um,
they could have, instead of interrupting the worship, just interrupted the coffee hour afterward. And
well, what I was gonna, I mean, my that's not my. I mean, I agree with like sit-ins and things like that. I understand, and so if they would have surrounded the space in a different way, like again, I don't know that I would have done it that way, but if I were leading this group, we could have surrounded the church and sang outside. I
yeah, there
love
could have been
the
other ways.
there could have been other ways, and I get it. You're at your wits' end. You're done. I respect that. I understand that.
Yeah, a friend here in Holland has had the idea to go to some of our local sort of evangelical kind of mega church or mega church lights and sit in the front row with a sign that the pastor can read that says, "You have blood on your hands," or "You are
Hmm.
complicit." And you're not
Right.
disruptive, but they
Nope.
get the message.
And again, that as we reflect on MLK Day, right? Like that there is specific disruption, right? There's lunch counter disruption, and that's the level we're not here to yell, we're not here to scream, we're here to sit and to be present. And yes, if that makes you uncomfortable, that's on you. If that's breaking the law, that's a law that shouldn't exist. But coming into a public worship space is not against the law,
Right.
even if you are shouting. Like, I mean, not in any way like this, not in any protest way, but I've certainly had people disrupt worship by calling out. Like, I actually did have somebody try to take over worship one day,
Yeah, that's
um,
scary.
and and try to protest the American flag that was there.
That's
It
right.
was only on Memorial Day,
That's right.
and it was scary, and it was like, but we weren't going to arrest him. It was it was inappropriate, but it wasn't. It only was the biggest problem of it was he um there wasn't any point where it was out of control, but there was a moment of the people leading worship who happened to be all female felt threatened in that way of like we don't know if we can stop this, but I did have enough power to like dismiss it, right? And we did contain the situation.
And if I'm remembering right, that you didn't disagree necessarily with his perspective. It was the manner in which he
It's the
went
manner
about
of,
it.
well, because so this was a church where had removed the flag for most of the time, and the compromise in removing the flag out of the sanctuary, the American flag
Yeah.
specifically out of the sanctuary, um, was that on Memorial Day weekend and Veterans Day weekend, the flag would come back in the sanctuary because that was a time that we were remembering and honoring those that served the country. I was not there when they made that decision. I was an interim pastor. I was there for 6 months. And this was a person that did not know that decision, that did not know that history. So maybe there should have been a note in the bulletin, something of that effect. But he did take over worship. He did disrupt worship. He interrupted it and tried to get people to lead a mass protest of the flag out of the sanctuary. Well, there are obviously a lot of veterans in the room who said, listen, this is like, we're not okay with that. And even people that aren't veterans in the room were not okay with that, the way that it was being done. And so nobody came forward. Nobody really knew what to do. And luckily that is a church where there were a lot of retired pastors in the room. And so they kind of came up and around him and brought him over to the side and said, let's go talk. And, we got to move on. But we actually made a plan of what to do when there's a disruption in church. So, by the
The good
way,
old, the
if
good
any,
old, the good old clergy contain and
right,
relocate.
exactly, and was like, hey, man, if you have a problem with this, there's a way to do this. There is a way, and
And so
by the
then,
way, yeah,
well, so uh, do you are you saying what these protesters did in Minnesota or St. Paul was not appropriate then? Because you're saying there's a way to do it. His way wasn't right. Does that mean their way wasn't right?
I'm saying I wouldn't have done it that way, and I understand.
I got
The
you.
the man that disrupted worship felt that this was he did not feel this was his only option. He absolutely knew the correct course of action to take. He chose not to do that. He
Yeah.
chose to disrupt service.
Right.
That is fine, and there are consequences to that. So if I don't know what charges the DOJ would press, I honestly don't. But
And my concern also is, again, I don't disagree with what they did, simply from that perspective that I mentioned earlier. You show up and you disrupt the lives of people while they're doing their living. Here's what it feels like. So,
right, right.
top marks for that. Now, what I'm concerned is, now what has this created in terms of copycats? Like, now how many church services are going to be disrupted on both sides, right? How many
So,
crazy, like, pro ICE folks start showing up at Presbyterian churches, and and
well,
and, and off we go.
part of the reason why we created the policies around disruption in worship was it actually pointed out an issue that we had not ever discussed, which was, hey, this is a church, yes, in a more liberal area, but that has a Black Lives Matter and a fully progressive rainbow flag, on its building.
Right.
The possibility is real. Ogun, what I would say to your point is, if this is going to start a copycat, this has been going on in progressive churches for a very long time, but it's been happening with guns. Like,
Oh,
how many
I was
people,
just about to say, yeah.
yeah, like how many people, like I remember one of my first years as a pastor, there was a shooting of a doctor who happened to perform abortions as part of his job. And there was a shooting of him. And I remember there were visitors that came the next Sunday, and I was absolutely terrified. They were no threat at all. But like I just couldn't breathe,
You were on high
right?
alert.
I was on absolute high alert. So if you don't have a policy around this stuff, I mean, first off, I have one, reach out to the show, happy to share it. Like, and all it is that if someone feels threatened in the room, the elders, what we call our leadership team, somebody would stand onto the side and get the attention of the worship leader, and there was an exit plan. This was also a church that had active shooter training, so it wasn't that, but we knew what to do. Everybody understood what to do. So
Email
have
me
that
that after
plan.
the
I
show.
rem-
Yeah, well, happily.
I remember when I was pastor back in Massachusetts, and we were trying to institute basically a gun safety plan. Somebody shows up with a gun. What do we do? Because we didn't have one in place. And the amount of people who were like, no, we don't want to do that, because if we give into the fear of that, we are attracting it to ourselves. We're breeding it ourselves. And I'm like, that's not how any of this
That's
works.
not fear. Yeah.
All of these church shootings that happened, I can guarantee you that nobody in the churches were sitting there afraid that something might happen, or praying or
Mm-mm.
hoping that it wouldn't. That's not what this is about. But we know these are the times we live in. It's the country you live in, where there are more guns than people, and we know the statistics of these things happening. Better to be prepared. We have a plan for fire, right?
Yeah.
No
Yes.
one's thinking the
Yes.
church is going to burn down on Sunday, but we have a fire plan. We got evacuation plan. We got fire alarms. We know what to do if there's a fire. Why can we not do this as well? Sort of
Mm-hmm.
deal. And people are like, well, we can't have our members armed. That's good. I said nobody was talking about that. There's so many steps between not knowing or doing anything, and arming your ushers. No one's talking about arming the ushers. This is like,
Right.
right.
Now
So many steps.
I will say, like we had a predominantly historically Black church in Baltimore that was in the neighborhood of Freddie Gray in 2015 that was receiving, the pastor and the church were receiving regular death threats.
Now that's
And
different.
that's different, right? And they had somebody who worked as a former police officer who worked as an active security guard, and it was like an air marshal. Like you didn't know who it
Mm-hmm.
was in the room, but that person was designated. Like they had a few of them, and each Sunday somebody was designated. If something happens, they're the person.
Yeah.
And so, and they're protecting, and I don't know that that's any different than the security that Malcolm X had, or that, MLK had, stuff like that, when there's an active threat going on.
Yeah.
I will, like, Brian, to your point of like, do I agree? Do I, that kind of thing of, that's not my way of protesting. My way of protesting is more the angels that stood and blocked Westboro Baptist from the funerals of people. Like,
Yeah.
my way of protesting is go to that church, stand outside,
Yes.
sing songs, have
Yes.
signs. My way is more that way,
And
right?
I,
Stand in the front row with your sign,
yeah,
whatever.
silently, non-dis.
Yes.
And I agree. I think that probably would be me too. And I think as clergy ourselves, as we've just heard, you've experienced this, and certainly Ogun and I know the feeling of you're leading something and somebody else wants to just totally do something else or disrupt like that. We
Mhm.
don't appreciate that or like that. And if you want to
And
have a
and honestly, it
conversation
feels
or whatever,
physically scary.
and it makes your
Like,
whole congregation feel unsafe.
yes, yes. And part of the reason why we instituted the policy was, how do we protect the worship leaders in that moment, so they can protect the congregation, right? Because my body shut down, quite honestly. Like, I
Right.
went into full trauma mode. I shut down. It took
100%.
me a good 3 minutes to reboot and to
Yeah.
step in.
Yes.
And I did, thank God, but it literally took me a few minutes because,
You were just over there hugging the flag.
well, no, I was on the opposite side of the sanctuary as the flag, thank God. But like, I'll fully admit this, right? Trauma response kicked in because I'll say this. I'm okay with saying this. What felt in that moment was that a man had put me in a position that I couldn't get out of.
Yeah. Horrible, horrible feeling.
And I shut down. I
Yep.
didn't know what to do. And then again, finally, like, as he went on, I finally could, like, okay, this needs to stop. And again, people in the congregation were like, we had no idea any of that happened. You handled it beautifully. But that's what was like, protect your leaders,
For sure.
progressive churches. Have their back. Know what to do,
Yeah.
right? Know how to step in for them, because in that moment I knew what to do, but I wasn't capable of doing it for a few minutes.
For sure, for sure. And we, our church also did an active shooter training with the local PD. I want to say like a year and a half ago, or even a little longer ago, and it feels as relevant as ever right now. And we are also just trying to learn what are the nonviolent de-escalation things you can do.
Mhm.
And so people are like, should we have like a bucket of water balloons in the back that we can throw? Or, like I don't, like a distraction while people are trying to get to safety and you're trying to distract this person,
Mm.
but not necessarily physically harm them. It's hard to think through.
And then it's too cold in the sanctuary, so they freeze, and you're actually hurting them, plummeting them with like ice balls.
Oh, and then you're the ones on the side of ice and you didn't even mean it.
And then you're hurting people because of ice.
Oh no.
Sorry, that was terrible.
Oh
By the
man.
way, if you do nothing else, one of the things that you can do to protect your congregation is, in the announcements, just point out where the exits are. Like, you're on an airplane. The exits
Excellent.
are in the back, in this door, and this door.
Here, here,
Like,
here, and here.
you're here and here. If something happens, just go to the nearest exit. That's it.
Like
It's
it.
that simple.
And stay seated until we turn off the seatbelt sign. Can't have
Yeah.
people hopping up and down, man. Makes us nervous. Stay in your seats. Stay.
Oh, see, movement
Yes,
never
yes.
bothered me. I think I had too many kids for like noise and movement to bother me. I was like, do what you need to do. Snoring bothered me, but for different
Oh
reasons.
my
It got in
gosh.
my head.
If people are bouncing around, that's just the Holy Spirit.
I mean, that's just, maybe, I honestly, it looks like it's a Southern Baptist church, and I hope the Southern Baptist Convention responds in a, like, hey, you know, maybe not so
Well, I
much.
don't know. I doubt. I doubt that's gonna happen.
How do I feel about pastors
I
working for ICE? Pay your pastors more so they don't have to. The end.
There you go. Endorsed.
I doubt it was
Seconded.
for the money. I doubt it was for the
I
money.
I don't know. Churches like this don't usually have full-time pastors with insurance and all
Sure,
those kind of things.
but also I doubt it was about the money.
And people have done more for money. So thank you, friends, for tuning into Pub Theology Live. I feel like whatever today. You can show your love by becoming a show, by becoming a supporter on Patreon. Get access to pre and post show banter and more. Visit patreon.com/PTLive to get started. Big thank you to our current patrons. You can watch full episodes on YouTube. Our top cities turning in this week are Austin, Texas, Calgary, Alberta, and Fresno, California. Plus, is it Lisa?
Lisa.
Lisa? Lisa, if we're pronouncing your name wrong, or if I am, I apologize. In Antarctica on her cruise. Have a great cruise. And if you'd like to start a Pup Theology gathering in your town, find support and resources at puptheology.com. So until next time, friends, drink responsibly and keep those conversations flowing.